Hey guys, it's Ben from Peninsula Camera here, and today I'm going to be running you through the latest version of DXO PureRAW. So we've recommended this software to a couple of our customers over the past year or so, and DXO have just released the third version of their software. There's a couple of new features in the software, but today we're mostly going to be looking at the image quality and what this software can do for your images. So I've got a couple of photos taken here, and we're using Adobe Lightroom today, but DXO has plugins with other programs as well, so you can use your preferred editing suite with it and integrate DXO into your already existing workflow. So the way it works is that you can either use DXO PureRAW as standalone software, meaning you open up DXO by itself, you drag in your files, you do your noise reduction, sharpening, all that fun stuff, and then you can export them into another program or just save them as a JPEG. Now the way I'm going to be doing it here is going to be using it with a Lightroom integration. So what this means is I can take this photo here. Now this one was taken in quite low light conditions, so if we zoom into 200%, we can see that there's a fair bit of noise there. So what we can do is we can click on File, plug in extras, and then we can click Process with PureRAW 3. So the first time you open up a file in DXO PureRAW, it's going to ask you to download some modules. So basically it's auto-selected the camera type and lens that we have, so we just click Save, and it'll go ahead and download any corrections for that lens and camera combination. So we've got a couple of different options here, but I'm going to be using Deep Prime XD just because it's going to give me the best results possible. This one does take a bit of extra time and the files are a bit bigger, but you really do get some nice results out of it. Everything else I'm going to leave to default, and I'm going to output it as a DNG, so that way I can go ahead and do my adjustments to it later. I'm also going to leave it in the same folder as the original images, so that way my file management isn't screwed up at all. And then I'm going to hit Start Processing. Now depending on the speed of your computer, this may take some time. The regular processing usually doesn't take that long, but the Prime XD processing can take a bit of time. So even for a powerful computer like this, it's still taking around a minute to do. So we'll give that a moment to go through. How long this will take for you depends on how old your computer is. If you've got a computer built within the last 5 years, it should be okay. And if you're using one of the Apple Silicon Macs, generally it's really quite snappy, especially if you're not using the XD Prime settings. Okay, so now our photo has been processed and finished. Now, this doesn't carry across any adjustments you've made already, so it's best to do this as soon as you import your photos into Lightroom. Since I did make some adjustments earlier, I'm going to go back to All Photos, and I'm going to right click on my original file. I'm going to press Develop Settings, Copy, check all, OK. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, and I'm going to go Develop Settings and Paste. That way it's just going to copy any adjustments I've made to the previous version over to the new version, and you can see the two files now look the same. So on the right we have the one out of camera, which is using the Sony a7 IV, which is a camera really good in low light, but even in this situation it struggled a little bit. And on the left we have the version that was done with Deep Prime XD. So if we zoom in, we'll notice that the image isn't too much softer, but that noise has completely disappeared. We're zoomed in at 200% here as well, but especially in the background you can see that the noise has just really disappeared. Even at 100%, again, any areas in the shadows have just been completely changed. All that noise gone. If you were to blow this up to a really big size, it would be a great difference. So that's a good example of what you can do with that sort of photo, but I'm going to go through and show you a few more just to sort of see the before and after. So we're going to take this picture of a bird here, and you can see that one is also quite noisy. Even though it was in a bright condition, we had to have the shutter speed pretty fast and it was a fairly overcast day. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go plug in extras, process with PureRAW 3. Okay, so again, on the left here, we have the Deep Prime version, and on the right, we've got just the standard straight out of camera version. So when we zoom in, you can even see there's hardly any loss in sharpness. If anything, it's a bit sharper. But the noise, especially in the areas back here in the darkness away from the face, over on the branch here in the background, there's a big difference in noise quality. Now, if you are interested in seeing these files yourself, I'm going to be putting some of them in the description below so you can download them and have a look at it so you can see the difference without the YouTube processing that's going on. Now, let's do an example with a camera that's a little bit older. So here's a shot that was taken with my EM1 Mark II, which is a camera from 2016. And it's a micro four thirds sensor. They're not known for being great at high ISO levels or low light scenarios. So this is just punishing it, right? Now because this is a much smaller file than the Sony one, it's only going to take around 10 seconds, so it's much quicker to process because we're using a file with less megapixels. And so we have the photo on the left and the right. Again, the left is the deep prime, the one on the right is the original, and you can see the difference here is even more drastic. If we zoom into the sky there, you can see that it's completely changed the image. Up in the clouds there, it's completely removed all of that noise. Much better. So one last thing we're going to have a look at is using DXO PureRAW without the assistance of something like Lightroom. So if you've got your own other processing software that you want to use that doesn't have integration with DXO PureRAW, you can still use the software. So you're going to want to take your RAW file and make sure it's somewhere we can find it, and then we're going to open up PureRAW 3 by itself. Okay, so what we can do is we can just drag and drop files in. So you can click here to choose a location for them, or you can just grab the file you want and drag in. Now you can do this with as many photos as you want. So if you've gone out for a big day of shooting in low light scenarios, you can grab all the photos and just drag them right in. And that's something that quite often we'll do here. I'm going to download the correct optics module. And so we've got our photos here. So you can go through and import a whole bunch of photos in here and then leave them to process overnight. And this is quite often if we're doing something like a low light shoot at a dance studio and we've got hundreds or thousands of photos to go through. We'll put them all through this first and leave it running overnight. So I'm going to hit process now. And I'm going to choose the selections I want. Okay, so now it's done. We can either view results or export. So I'm going to go view results here. And it's actually got this little tool where you can zoom in and you've got your original RAW on the left and the processed one on the right. So you can actually just drag back and forth to see the difference. Now, especially with those red areas of noise, it's really cleaned those up, but it hasn't lost any of the details in the stars. So a lot of noise reduction software, when you use it on astrophotography, it'll go ahead and lose a lot of detail. Now that we've gone ahead and finished with our preview, we can close it. And now we can see in the same location that the original files were in, which in this case was on the desktop, it's left me a little folder called DXO, and it saved the photo in there. And that's saved as a DNG, so you can go ahead and do any raw adjustments to it using Lightroom, Photoshop, any other processing software you might be using. We can also go straight into those processing softwares from here if you want us to do a batch of them and then move them into Lightroom or Photoshop. And you can do that by clicking and then right clicking, pressing export to application, and then choosing your software that you want us to do. You can also get it to export the original RAW files into there as well if you wanted a comparison between the two, or maybe preferred the original RAW for some files. And it is always good to keep those RAWs as a backup just in case. This is a really great piece of software that helps improve your camera's low light and high ISO performance and is essentially giving you equivalent results to buying a new camera. It's a massive improvement over the original files, and as long as you're happy with waiting for a bit of time to process it, it's a really great way to get the best out of your camera. If you have any questions about the software, you're always welcome to come and visit us in store or leave a comment below on this video. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you in the next one.